We are here with the Help Hope Heroes podcast.
Stevens Center, for me, they believed in me when I didn't believe in myself.
Recorded live at a homeless shelter.
I basically reinvented myself with the Stevens Center.
Our clients are the homeless, the addicted, those in poverty.
We fight the good fight.
Tear down some stigmas.
They taught me those life skills that I didn't have.
What does Help Hope Heroes mean to you?
If you come to the Stevens Center, you will be changed in a really good way.
Okay, here we are with yet another episode of the Help Hope Heroes podcast. My name is Michael Murphy. I'm the marketing director here at Stevens Center and your host for episode 12. Can't believe we've already breezed through 12. We're going to try to do one a week for the next year. That'll be 52. So we're not even around like halfway mark yet, but I'm not getting tired of it. Hopefully the audience listening today is not tired of it as well. I do think that we're really going to get some engaged people after today's episode because we are so pleased to have a awesome guest with us here today, Mr. Wayne Meyer. Wayne, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Michael. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, we're so thrilled to know that you would be willing to do so. You already do so much for us here at Stevens Center. Can you talk about, like, how did you, not how, but what do you do when you come to campus here at Stevens Center?
I come to the Stevens Center as often as they'll have me, and they let me tell my story of my path to sobriety and what I've done with my 33 years of sobriety.
Whoa. So we've done a few episodes. That is the longest amount of sobriety we have had to date. 33 years.
33 years last Sunday, actually.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so that's
Blessed.
so that's sober and free from drugs and alcohol. What was your thing, man? Was it drugs and alcohol, or?
It started off with alcohol, and then I progressed through all kinds of drugs. It kind of ended with alcohol and cocaine at the end.
Okay. So it was time to quit.
It was definitely time to quit. I was drinking and drugging for about 10 years, and at the end, I knew that I had a serious problem, a big monkey on my back, and I really didn't know how to get it off my back. I had tried. I'd been on a merry-go-round of thinking I could do it myself, and then, the next weekend or the weekend after that, there was proof that I couldn't do it myself.
Yeah.
And I ended up with my third DUI, and
Ouch.
they said 90 days in jail or 90 days clean, you get a pick. And obviously I picked the 90 days clean, and I've never looked back.
So 90 days clean. So obviously they sent you to like rehab. What did you do? Rehab?
It was an intensive outpatient treatment program in Lincoln, Lutheran Family Social Services.
Okay. And it was all order of the court.
Yes.
So after 90 days, what happened? Like, did you go back and say, I've satisfied this need and then no more problems, or what?
I actually have been lucky enough that there haven't been any more problems. But, I had satisfied my court needs. So from there, it was just a matter of working hard to keep myself clean.
Yeah.
So.
Working hard. Now, I have heard your full story, and for those of you listening today or watching, we're not going to go through Wayne's full story. It's rather lengthy, and we already have it on our YouTube page. So we'll post a link to that wherever you're at right now, listening or watching. You can click on that link to hear Wayne's full story. It's magnificent. It's compelling. I'd be willing to bet it saved people just from hearing the story and getting to meet you, which is what it's all
You're
about.
Too kind, Michael.
I don't do it. I trust me, I could be unkind to the deserving. Really, if you don't mind, I don't want to spend too much time on your personal story of recovery because, like I said, the full length is out there. What was your rock bottom? I mean, outside of the third DUI and them saying 90 days clean or jail, was there a moment?
I think that it was a progression. It was a series of these times when I said, I think I've got control of this, just to wake up on a Sunday morning and have, only a third of a bottle of Crown Royal on my nightstand, knowing that I had drank the rest of the bottle the night before.
Wow.
Or waking up and having to look out the back window to see if my car is there because I don't remember how I got home.
Scary.
And it was just, I was just tired of that feeling of out of control. And I was out of control.
So are you, 33 years sobriety, I got to know how you do this or how you've done it. Are you much of a 12-stepper? Are you somebody that's in the meetings a lot, or what has helped? What was your method to the madness, right?
Well, you know, I have to say the grace of God to begin with.
Yeah.
Number one.
Amen.
I know he's watched over me. Because I've done a few things that maybe not are prescribed by the 12-step program, but I know looking back on, you know, on the experience that I did a few things right, not knowing that, you know, it was a good thing to do. But yes, when I first started, I was active in AA. I had a sponsor. As the years went on, I found that by pouring myself into different healthy activities, like my first one was going back to school. I had dropped out of high school when I was 16
Okay.
because of my drinking and using drugs. And the first thing I did was pour myself, and I mean pour myself back into going to school. I studied like crazy.
So was that to get a GED?
No,
Or is
that was
that-
to get, I had a GED.
Okay, so you did go back to the point of getting a GED. Now we're talking college level.
Yes.
Wow. You do have to pour yourself into college.
I did.
Yeah.
And, you know, I started in Lincoln, at Lincoln Southeast Community College, and my parents saw that I was making progress, and they offered to let me move back in with them to go to UNO. So in 5 years, I ended up with a full bachelor's degree from UNO.
That's awesome.
With computer science and almost 100 hours out of 110 at Southeast Community College with
Yeah.
a degree in finance management.
That's great. Now, you mentioned your parents briefly. Did you guys, through your rock bottom and through your discovering that it's jail or 90 days in rehab, did you guys have some hiccups along the road in that family life?
Well, you know, my father, I'm a third generation alcoholic. My grandfather, my dad's dad, actually died in a wreck while he was drinking. And a big part of me starting drinking was that my father was in the height of his alcoholism. And let's just say he wasn't the most encouraging person at the time. And that led to me escaping that whole situation through alcohol. So for me to move back into my parents' house and live with my father at 30 years old, it was not, I mean, things were better. He actually got sober 1 year after I did. So he's been sober for 32 years. He saw a difference
That's
in
incredible.
me and wanted to get sober himself. And I think he, like me, had come to the realization that, you know, there's no good outcome to where it was progressing for him either. So yeah, it was a big step to move back in just because we had so much friction in my earlier years.
Yeah. There's always that moment in every recovery story, it seems, of humbleness.
I had to be
that
very
it?
humble.
Yeah.
But, you know, by then I had a goal. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things I always talk about to other people when I get the opportunity to talk, is having a goal and having maybe more than one goal and to take up your free time. Because when you get clean and sober, the time that you would have been using or you know, wasting,
Yeah.
you need to find something healthy to do with that time, and goals are a good way to occupy, to come up with a goal, work towards it.
So
Never give up.
you did the school thing. What was your next goal? I mean, that doesn't occupy your time for 33 years.
No, that took me about 5 years.
Okay.
After that, I got a job offer in Colorado, and I always loved the mountains of Colorado. We used to vacation there when I was a kid. So job opportunity. Oh, by the way, I'll give you twice the money you're making now.
Oh,
so
geez. No brainer, yeah.
I was going to Colorado, and a lot of my friends out there, you know, hiking the mountains in Colorado. So I started by hiking, you know, with no real goal, just going for a walk in the mountains. And slowly that progressed into, they have these mountains that are over 14,000 foot high in
Yeah.
Colorado. They're called 14ers. There's 54 of them. And slowly it got to the point where that was my next passion that I threw myself into. In Colorado, by the time, you know, I had explored that passion.
Yeah.
I'd climbed about half of the 14ers and
Wow.
many of them in the wintertime. So that's a whole nother level of difficulty when you do them in the wintertime.
And we're not just talking a time investment either. I mean, that's how you're investing your money too. So
Yeah,
because you're not just walking there in shoes and a big coat. You need the backpack.
No, looking back over the progression of things of 33 years, I was lucky enough to go back to school.
Yeah.
And not only go back to school, but to end up with a degree that allowed me to make decent money.
Yep. To support the hobby, but hey,
support all the different things that I've done.
it would have been supporting your habit.
Yeah,
It probably would have been more expensive.
And these passions that I've had, I've often, I've questioned it myself. Is this just another addiction? But I don't think they're addiction. I did not want to drink and use at the end. I wanted to get that monkey off my back
Yep.
and didn't know how. I needed help. These passions that I've had to take the place of drinking and using, I've wanted to do them.
Yeah.
They are,
You didn't have to go to a clinic to find out how to quit mountain climbing.
No.
There's no support groups for that either, right?
Nope. No, there's not.
I just can't stop climbing the mountain.
It was so many stories I could tell you.
Yeah.
And beautiful things that I've seen when I was up there.
I feel like something I've heard in your story is that throughout golf, mountain climbing, and then you move on to Ironman, and we'll touch on that in a little bit. You've had these moments where God has spoken to you. Can you tell me about one of those moments?
Well,
I think you called them God, winks from God. Right?
Yeah, winks
I
from
love
God.
That. I love that.
I mean, to kind of get the progression in line, when I first got clean and sober, I was managing a restaurant, and I knew that I could not stay in that environment and around those people. I was actually the bar manager of a restaurant, so not a good environment. So I moved away. I moved to a small farmhouse south of Milford, Nebraska that my uncle owned. And I remember on that day, first morning that I woke up in that farmhouse to get away from my bad environment, saying a prayer to God and asking him for his help to keep me sober and get me through school.
Wow.
And that prayer pretty much went forgotten until years later, and when I had the time to reflect on, what I had done.
So that was your surrender moment.
Oh, it was an epiphany when I thought back about asking God for God's help to keep me sober. And then it's like, I think he's more than kept his end of the bargain, because I told God then that I will do whatever you want me to do. You do this for me, I'll do this for you.
Yeah.
Hence I'm here today.
And it feels like you've been led on this path, like every time. So I know part of for those of you that don't know and haven't seen the full story, Wayne has participated in quite a few Ironman competitions.
Yeah.
And now for those of you that don't know what Ironman is, that's swimming, biking, and a marathon, like running.
Yeah, it's a 2.4 mile swim in open water, and then you ride your bike for 112, and then you do a full mile or marathon at 26.2 miles.
In 3 different days? Come on, man. That took me 3 years.
It's in the same day. And,
wow.
I've done 2, and, they've both taken right at 15 hours.
So that was one thing that you've channeled yourself into after mountain climbing?
Yes.
Yep.
In 2014, I had been reintroduced to running by a friend who really is my first wink from God, because without her being so enthusiastic about running, I probably wouldn't have started running.
Mm-hmm.
Her and I had made a pact to do a half marathon together, okay? And so at the beginning of 2014, I decided that I was going to show my son that you can do anything you want to do, as long as you apply yourself and you don't give up. Never quit.
Yeah.
So I planned out this very elaborate 2014, that included a half marathon and 2 bike rides in Colorado, a full marathon. It was elaborate.
Yeah.
And during my training, I kind of was wondering, maybe I'd bitten off more than I could chew.
Yeah.
So this first bike ride that I did. It was called the Elephant Rock Ride. It was going to be a 100-mile ride, and it was like in May, so I hadn't had time to really train very much.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a Google search, and I came back with page after page of hits of, that were information about this ride, the Elephant Rock Ride. And I picked one out of pages, and it ended up being a blog for a lady that had started at 50, and she was, mid-50s when I read the story.
50 years old.
50
when she
years
started to
old,
do the
and
bike
she had
ride.
went from couch potato to 3-time Ironman finisher, and
Holy cow.
her blog was inspiring,
Yeah.
completely inspiring. So she had a little page, where you can ask her questions or send her a note, and I did. And she responded. I really did not expect her to
Yeah.
respond, because this is, a Ironman finisher.
She's got a blog.
Yes.
It's a big deal. I mean, we're talking years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I told her what I was doing. She responded. We went back and forth a couple times. And before May, April-ish of that year of 2014, she had volunteered to be my coach to get me through all these other events that I was going to do that year. And she's my first wink from God.
That's amazing, yeah.
Without her, we're probably not sitting here,
Yeah.
because the story wouldn't be quite as interesting.
Yeah.
And then what she did for me to help me without any need or want for repayment. She did it just to help somebody.
Out of the goodness of her heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of friends people want.
It's
Those
the pay it forward types. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and she very much was. We're still best friends today.
Well-
She was my first wink from God.
Well, what's great is now that as I get to know you, you're the pay it forward guy. you know?
I hope so. I that's why I'm here. I
Yeah.
want to help as many people with my story as I possibly can.
Yep.
I've got a website now in an effort to
Yeah.
touch as many people as I can. The name of it is thesoulofaphoenix.com, and you can go there. I've got a YouTube video of my whole story
Great.
in pictures.
Yeah.
So set to some music that I like.
Yeah.
Hopefully everybody else will too.
Yeah.
She was my first wink from God, though. She still is.
And so you've had a series of those along the way, and I think that's important to point out just because you didn't realize it until later, right?
I really didn't.
So for those of you listening that may be in the throes of addiction or actually emerging from addiction and into recovery, God's winking at you, according to Wayne, and one day you'll look back and you'll recognize that. So
You
just
will.
stay the course, right?
Yes.
Stay the course.
And you see, what happened with me is it took the amount of training that I did for an Ironman, all the time, the 6 or 8 hours at a time on my bike, and the 5 hours running, and the hours and hours in the pool. And it took that solitude and of me being in my head
Yeah.
to reflect on my life.
Yep.
And, that's when it started occurring to me. And that, wow, I'm one lucky guy.
Yeah.
I've been able to do all of this, and it's all just fallen in place. And then that prayer that I had said to God on the porch when I first got sober occurred to me. And I'm like,
It
wow,
kicked it
he's
off.
really kept his end of the bargain.
Yeah.
It's time to keep mine. And that's when, I'm like, what can I do?
Yeah.
How can I possibly make a difference? And I'm like, well, he's given me one heck of a story to tell.
Yeah.
Alcoholic the Ironman might inspire somebody, and I hope it does. But that's what occurred to me while I was out there training. And I'm not sure that without all those hours of solitude that I would have got there.
The chance to reflect and
I mean, I think having time to reflect and get yourself away from the day-to-day busy is it's needed
Yeah.
to really hear when God is winking at you, or see when God is winking at you, and he definitely did to me.
That's great. Now, and you had mentioned just a little bit ago that your initial goal is you wanted your son to see you complete a marathon, or was it the Ironman?
An Ironman really wasn't in my sights
Yeah.
until I had met my coach.
Yeah.
And when I met her, I'm like, your story is really impressive.
Yep.
I'm like, it's inspiring. I said, I would like to do a triathlon, but I can't swim.
Yeah.
So in 2004,
Yeah, that's right. You had never really been a swimmer at all. Like, did you know how to swim?
No, I couldn't swim.
That's incredible.
I couldn't swim at all. My second wink from God is when I went and took a swim lesson at Lifetime Pool, and because I'm like, I've set my mind on a triathlon, not necessarily an Ironman at that point. And I called Lifetime Fitness, and I said, I need a swim lesson. And I showed up when they told me to, and a young girl showed up, and she tells me to put on your gear, show me what you got. And I put on my swim cap and my goggles, and she goes, your swim goggles are on upside down. Honestly, it really happened
That's
that way.
a good sign that you
So,
don't.
but that's
Yeah.
how little I knew about swimming. And I had to stop 3 times before I got to the end of the 25-meter
Yeah.
pool. So,
Well, it could have been worse. You could have been put in a class with nothing but 4 and 5-year-olds.
yeah.
Just
But-
you and then all these little kids around you.
I let it slip at that swim lesson though, and I
Yeah.
said, I'm thinking about doing a triathlon down in Lawrence, Kansas. She goes, I won that one 2 years ago.
The gal at Lifetime.
Yeah, I won that one 2 years ago, and sure enough, I go home and I Google her,
Yeah,
and she's a pro triathlete.
that's amazing.
I mean, so now within a month,
You've met-
after me never knowing what a triathlon really was, I've got a person that's done 3 full Ironman volunteering to be my coach,
Yep.
and this other person trying to teach me how to swim so I can do a triathlon. She's a pro.
That's the wink.
And another wink, and there's a whole series of them.
That's the good
It's just
stuff.
incredible.
That's the
I
good
mean,
stuff.
it's no denying that it's the hand of God.
Yeah. Hey, so you want to hear all these winks, make sure you check out the full story at his website, which is thesoulofaphoenix.com. It's also on the Steven Center YouTube channel. I think his versions are going to be a little more interesting because they got photos and music, whereas ours is just a raw recording of him speaking to our hero clients, which is what I wanted to get to now is you spend your time here at Steven Center maybe once a month, once every 2 months, whenever you can, really. And he speaks to the folks that are in our hero program. HERO stands for Health, Empowerment, Responsibility, and Opportunity. It is home to our intensive inpatient rehab, a drug and alcohol rehab program where we have nothing but co-occurring therapists. Co-occurring is so important because they know how to treat mental health and addiction at the same time. A lot of what we're seeing in our clients is those people that are self-medicating for their mental health. And when you self-medicate with street drugs, it is a downward spiral into poverty and homelessness. And that's why Steven Center's here, is to take care of those folks and give them their second, 8th, 10th, 15th chance at becoming, living up to their full potential. And that's what Steven Center is about. And I know Wayne here has seen a lot of that in his time. Could you tell us just real briefly, I know it's part of the full story, just real briefly, how did you even become aware of Steven Center?
My girlfriend and I, we were sitting at a picnic table. Earlier in the day, I had actually went to several treatment centers here in Omaha trying to get somebody to let me tell my story. At that point, I was sure that was what God wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And we were sitting at the picnic table, and shame on me, my one vice I have left is smoking a cigar once in a while. I was smoking a cigar, and this guy pulls up in the parking lot, across the parking lot, and he gets out, and Sarah, my girlfriend, she says, oh, he has a Steven Center shirt on. And I'm like, sadly enough, at that time, I wasn't sure what Steven Center was.
Yeah.
But she says, that's a recovery and homeless shelter down in South O. And I'm like, oh, I could ask him.
Yeah.
Well, he had already went inside, so I'm like, oh, there goes that chance. But it was like on cue.
Yeah.
The gentleman comes out the door, this bag of trash, and I corralled him at the trash can, and I said, I told him my name and that I'd been sober for 30 years at that time,
Yeah.
and that I'm looking for a place to tell my story, and I want to help people, maybe give them hope by listening to it. And he said, sure. It's Jamal,
Jamal.
who is a counselor here at the center.
Second
And-
episode in a row, he's gotten shouted out for being awesome. Way to go, Jamal.
Yeah. So, and he and I actually in 2017 ran the Lincoln Half Marathon together. So
Cool.
But
the
even
power
that
of the
was a
shirt.
wink from God, because I if Sarah hadn't been with me and known what the
Correct.
Stevens Center
So
was,
she's one of the winks.
yeah,
He's one of the winks.
yeah,
That's
definitely.
beautiful.
I mean, it all happened just right, or I wouldn't be here.
So for those of you wondering why I always wear a Steven Center shirt,
Now you know.
A, it's easier to pick out what I'm wearing that day. It's a lot easier to keep up on laundry. And B, you never know who's going to ask and if it could save or change a life.
Yeah.
So cool. So real quick, we're going to step through the acronym HERO, and then we're going to talk a little more about the soulofaphoenix.com. HERO, health, empowerment, responsibility, opportunity. Talk to me about what being sober has done for your health, Wayne, whether it's physical or mental.
Oh, being sober. I am absolutely, there's no doubt in my mind that I'd be dead.
Yeah.
I mean, I was at that point where I could drink, a lot,
Yeah.
a fifth of whiskey in a night, a case of beer.
And not knowing if you drove home or not.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if I didn't die in a car wreck, I would have died from symptoms of alcoholism
Yeah.
by now. I wouldn't be alive. There's just no doubt.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Now, empowerment. Talk to me about empowerment from your sobriety.
I
What
mean,
hasn't it
I
empowered
don't
you
know
to do?
where
You've done a
start
lot.
with that. I mean, my sobriety, I now have a mission. I honestly think this is my calling from God, to tell my story. It gave me the opportunity to go back to school,
Yeah.
from which gave me a foundation that all of this, the rest of this, has been built upon. And had it not been for that step, and it's just been one step at a time.
Yeah.
And while I was doing all those steps, I was just, just following my passion. So it's,
It was giving you a story worth telling.
yes, it has.
If you would have just put all your energy into the violin and the piano, and now you can play music. Nobody wants to hear that story, Wayne. They want to hear the story about the guy that mastered golf, is what I've heard. Anyway,
I won a few tournaments, but
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
not a master.
Hey, man, you win anything in golf, whether it's putt-putt or not. That's something. And then you've got the mountain climbing, and then you've got the Ironman completing, and your son got to see you complete it.
He did.
That's so cool.
He was at the finish line with my coach,
Yeah.
my first wink from God, and now a very close friend.
God. So blessed.
Yes.
So responsibility. Tell me about what sobriety has done for your responsibility. It's pretty obvious from what you've already talked about, but I mean, what
Responsibility. I mean,
talk about when
When
you
I
weren't sober. Yeah.
when I was drinking and using, one of my horror stories that I kind of tell is that when I was drinking one time, I had a friend loan me a bunch of very expensive four-season camping equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And we were having a party at my house one night, and instead of paying the guy money, I paid him with my friend's camping equipment
For Coke.
for drugs.
Yeah.
So that's the way my responsibility was.
Yeah.
And now, I mean,
Talk about going from somebody you don't want to know to somebody you do want to know.
Yes.
It's so good to know you.
and I don't know. I take my responsibilities very serious. I've got a credit rating.
Yeah.
I've got a house. I've
Yeah.
got a car. I've got all those things that, responsible people end up with. Had I stayed on that same track, there's no way.
Yeah.
One of the things I say when they ask me, how have you done this? I talk about priorities, which are close to responsibilities, and I think that choosing your friends wisely is a big part of staying sober.
Really is, yeah.
One of your biggest first things is to take an inventory of those people that you thought were your friends.
Mm-hmm.
They may not be your actual friends. When I got clean and sober, the people at that restaurant that I was working at,
Yeah.
I never saw one of them again.
Yeah.
They were party pals. They were not
Friends,
So,
friends in the true sense of the word.
yes.
So I'm going to tie in the opportunity with one little thing. I want you to speak to somebody that might be in the throes of addiction right now and talk about the opportunities that they will be afforded by sobering up?
I mean, opportunities will fall. I mean, they did for me. When I got clean and sober, things just change. People see differences in you. They give you opportunities. They want you to be successful. Whereas when you're using and drinking, that may not be so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I got clean and sober, opportunities, like I said, once I stayed sober for a couple years, and I was going to school faithfully and taking it very serious, my parents, who were not on my side when I was drinking, suddenly became my
Your
biggest
allies,
cheerleaders.
yeah.
I mean, they asked me to move back into school, and you know, and so
Snowballed.
opportunities, and it might take a while because people, you know, want to see for sure,
Yeah.
but opportunities will come knocking on your door once you get clean and sober.
Great message. Well done, my friend. All right, so I would like to talk to you now about what you're doing, what you are up to, which we've mentioned before, thesoulofaphoenix.com, and I have a business card here. It says Wayne Meyer, addiction speaker.
I am trying to, as much as I possibly can, tell my story to whoever will listen. It seems to help people. I want to get better at it so I can touch more people. I am, I'm actually writing. This is letting the cat out of the bag here,
Oh,
big
boy.
time. But I have started. I've got like 2 pages done of a book.
That's awesome.
So
That's awesome, and I think that always helps when you're trying to get out and speak.
yeah,
That's always that.
yeah. For me, speaking right now, it's not only for me though. It's
Yeah.
to help other people, but it does help me. It
Yeah.
helps me to once a month. You know, I have to get my feet underneath me before I go speak someplace.
Yep.
And I have to go over, you know, this is where I was. This is how far down I was.
Rehashing your story every month.
Every month.
Oh, yeah,
And, but I get to relive the happy times too.
correct.
And then,
The gratefulness.
you know, very much. Living a life of gratefulness is one of the things I highly suggest for staying sober. I mean, if you can stay in that grateful state, life doesn't seem so hard.
Yeah, the grateful state. I like it. Should
But-
be the title of your book.
Yeah. So
You can have that for free.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But, you know, the other night when I spoke at the Stevens Center, when I finally made one of my biggest points in my talk, I had a lady, when she realized what, you know, my message was, she gasped and she started crying, visibly crying. And that is
that's what it's
all
all
I
about.
want. If I can help one person every time I go someplace and speak, my 10 years
Yep.
are worth it.
Yeah. Definitely worth it. And the courage, I think that's what a lot of people don't appreciate is the courage it takes to share and to do that over and over again. But then, like you had kind of said before we actually got on air, was that's the payoff, man. That moment where she gasps and the moment where somebody comes up and says, hey, that resonated with me. And even if it's just one person throughout the time that you're speaking,
Yeah.
it's worth it.
It,
And so for those of you that might not have the courage yet to share, it's going to be there one day, and it's going to be how you pay it forward. You know, and that's what I was referencing earlier is, Wayne, now you're the pay it forward guy, right?
Yeah.
And that's just so cool to me.
it truly is what my passion is now.
Yeah.
Um,
Now you're
Still
all
trying
in
to
on
ride
that.
my bike and run once in a while, but
Yeah.
this has become my passion. Just for those, you know, the one person in a group that truly hears what my message is,
Mm-hmm.
and you can tell that, you know, it hit a note with them, and they're going to remember it, and it might help them along the way. That's my passion now.
That's great. And we're lucky to have you part of our mission. It's so cool how it happened, just, you know, on happenstance with Jamal being outside. But what we've come to find here in the nonprofit world, especially in our mission, is you start out doing something for the right reason, and it snowballs. We went from a $10,000 bar to 2 state-of-the-art $1 million facilities, and we are able to help and change lives on a daily basis. So when you have the right mission, when your heart is focused on the right reason, just step out and do it, because it's going to snowball. It's going to be organic. And 10 years from now, it could be an even bigger mission. So we applaud you for that. I know that people listening are going to applaud you. Again, that's thesoulofaphoenix.com. And we'll be sure to put that in the link on this podcast so people can just click on it and get there. If you have any questions for Wayne, you'll be able to contact him through that website. If you have you wanted to come out and speak to your campus, and let's talk about that a little bit. Who do you think the audience is going to be? Obviously, some rehabilitation centers, maybe even probation officers might want to have you come speak to their folks. And
yeah, recovery centers.
Yeah.
Any group of people that have had problems with alcohol or drug addiction.
Okay.
I think my message resonates with them.
Yep.
There is such a strong spiritual message in my story that I think that it would resonate with church audiences too.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, definitely. I think they'd love to hear it, especially even at like a high school age youth group, possibly showing them the pitfalls. And our director, Missy's agreeing. She's shaking her head. She knows what's up. I think youth groups definitely would love to have you come out of that high school age.
My son is.
Let them know that your son. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My son, he keeps saying, "Come speak at my school."
Yeah.
So, but
All
things.
those- yeah.
One thing I've learned: things work out in time.
Yep.
And if that's where this goes, that's where it's meant to go, and it will.
Yeah.
Hopefully, this is just another step in the progression of.
What I like too is whenever I hear you speak or hear your story or even just talk to you, it reminds me to trust that I'm on the right path, trust that I'm being led, quit trying to control things down to the T. I mean, you're at where you're at because you have that faith and you're going to get led in that certain direction. And it's all about patience. I mean, 33 years probably kind of felt like it went by fast, but that's a long progression to getting to where you now feel like you're doing what you were called to do. And like I said, you built an interesting story throughout those 33 years. It's not just a
Not
boring.
intentionally, though.
Yeah, not
I mean,
intentionally.
that's why you just know it's
like-
something bigger than myself because I didn't.
You're like, why do I want to do a triathlon?
Yeah,
I want to be on my couch.
Yeah.
But no, you had that want. God put that in you.
Right.
You were led. Very awesome. All right. So, one last question. If you've ever watched the show before or listened to a podcast, we ask everybody the same question. Now, this doesn't have to pertain to Stevens Center or the Hero Program. Typically just about yourself. What does Help Hope Heroes mean to Wayne Meyer?
I mean, as it pertains to the Stevens Center,
Okay.
I will always know that the Stevens Center was a part of my story. It's where it all started. I mean, as far as speaking and helping people, I mean, you cannot deny what a weird coincidence,
Yeah.
and I don't call them coincidences, that brought me here. So it really feels like it's right that I have so much loyalty to this place because I know that God put me there.
That's great.
And then, a couple other things. I have been to a couple other places, and they're great places. And through nothing that they've done wrong, but I think through what the Stevens Center is doing right is that there's so much enthusiasm here.
Yeah.
From the people that work here to the clients that are here. There's a level of I'm going to get better as opposed to, I don't know, I'm going to try. There's a level of excitement that I haven't seen in other places, and it's not because the other places are doing something wrong or bad. It's just I think the enthusiasm that everybody here, including you, we were talking about this before, you exude a level of enthusiasm that the clients here feel and pick up on, and they pick up on it and they feed off of it.
Yeah.
And I think it makes an environment that is healthy, and they know they're at the right place.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for pointing that out. I think that is something this is a unique and special place. And a lot of that comes from the fact that over 30 of our now 70-ish employees are former clients. So they either came to us through the homeless shelter or came to us through the HERO program. So when a client tries to call them out and say, you don't know how, oh, I do know exactly how it feels. And sometimes I know how it feels worse. And I was able to do it, so you can do it. And be able to throw that back and just say, not in their face, but just throw it back to them and say, hey, look, I was in the worst of the worst situations, worse off than you. If I can do it, you can do it. Then you get that belief, you get that enthusiasm. So if you haven't yet, please come down and get a tour. I think even on a tour, come enjoy one of the delicious meals of Fran's Diner that Chef Robert whips up, and have lunch with us. You will get to know what Wayne's talking about. I think it's a feeling.
It is. It's a feeling,
yep.
and it's obvious. It's. I mean, people are not moping around here, acting, like they're going through they are going through a hard time, but they seem enthusiastic, and it's just it's obvious to me.
That's great. Thanks for pointing that out. So that's going to wrap up our episode. One thing I'd like to do is, I believe her name is Sarah.
Yes.
Give her a shout out.
Sarah
all right. Like either for putting up with you or for being by your side or like saying, hey, that guy has a Steven Center shirt. So shout out to Sarah for being a wink
Sarah,
from God.
She keeps me on the straight and narrow. I bounce everything off of her.
Yeah.
She knows my whole story, everything.
Yeah.
And really, if it wasn't for her, I'm not sure I have the courage, but I got to practice on her a lot. And she's listened to the whole thing a lot. She's only, I've done it 20, 30 times now, and she's only missed one of them. She's been by my side every time. So she deserves a great big shout out.
Awesome. Awesome to Sarah. And then the other thing I learned is that they call them 14ers. So if they're over 14,000 feet, they call them the 14ers.
Yeah, there's 54 of them.
54 14ers out there in Colorado.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking for the 1,000ers. And if I could drive my car to the top.
We're at 950, so that would just be a 50-foot peak.
Hey, I've done one of those. That's great. Wayne, such a pleasure to know you. Such a pleasure to have you as part of our mission. Thank you so much for being a part of the Help Hope Heroes podcast.
Thank you for letting me be here.
All right, great. We're here with the Help Hope Heroes podcast.
Steven Center, for me, they believed in me when I didn't believe in myself.
Recorded live at a homeless shelter.
I basically reinvented myself with the Steven Center.
Our clients are the homeless, the addicted, those in poverty.
We fight the good fight.
Tear down some stigmas.
They taught me those life skills that I didn't have.
What does Help Hope Heroes mean to you?
If you come to the Steven Center, you will be changed in a really good way.